In 2016, scientists opened for the first time in centuries the tomb venerated as that of Jesus, at the heart of one of the most explosive places in the world. What did they really discover beneath the marble slab of the Holy Sepulchre? It rises in the Christian quarter, wedged into the maze of the souks, squeezed by the houses, caught in the grip of the present-day walls of Jerusalem. Above, the sky is thin. The rooftops almost touch. Around, voices rise in mingled waves: Arabic, Hebrew, Greek, Latin. The Basilica stands there, not as a simple monument, but as a burning scar, under the jurisdiction of the State of Israel since 1967, at the heart of an area that the Palestinian Authority claims as East Jerusalem. The very stone seems to know that every step here is a step on a border. Inside, shadow welcomes you. Cool, dense, heavy with incense and burnt wax. It is here that for centuries, most Christian churches have pointed to two tiny and terrible places: a blackened rock, Golgotha, and a small marble structure, the edicule, which tradition designates as the tomb of Jesus of Nazareth. You enter it bent over. You come out trembling. At least since the 4th century, Christian memory has clutched this point of rock and this burial chamber like a core of fire. But this fire is caught in a net of laws, customs, and regulated gestures. The Ottoman status quo rests upon the Holy Sepulchre, a firman of 1852 confirmed in 1853. It divides the hours, the keys, the steps, the lamps, the altars. Nothing moves without the agreement of those who keep watch. Every space belongs to a community. Every task is a jealously guarded right. The status quo freezes. It protects. It also confines. We are in the 4th century. The Roman Empire is faltering, but a new faith is rising. Constantine, the first emperor to turn to Christ, listens to the words of Macarius, Bishop of Jerusalem. In this rebuilt pagan city, topped with Roman temples, the bishop claims that an ancient place is still whispering. Under the paving stones, behind the colonnades, lies a funerary complex from the 1st century. There would have been the place of execution. There, the tomb. Constantine decides. Orders cross the Mediterranean like thunder. The Roman buildings are torn down. Excavations are made. Stone is uprooted. Beneath the rubble appear rock-cut tombs, silent cavities. Among them, one tomb stands out, isolated, marked, already surrounded by a memory that no one has written down, but that everyone murmurs. The emperor wants more than a memory. He wants a monumental sign. The rock around the tomb is quarried away. A block of stone is left standing, hollowed out, sculpted, girded with marble and gold. This is the beginning of the martyrium. Above it, a basilica is raised. Columns, nave, courtyards, a gigantic rotunda covering the tomb. Around 335, the church is consecrated. Eusebius of Caesarea, in the life of Constantine, recounts this gesture. The empire embraces an empty tomb. At the turn of the year 1000, a storm from Egypt falls upon Jerusalem. The Fatimid Caliph Al-Hakim bi Amr Allah orders the destruction of Christian sites. In 1009, the basilica and the edicule suffer the fury of fire and iron. Christian and Muslim texts converge. Almost everything disappears. The marbles shatter. The columns fall. The tomb itself seems destined for obliteration. Yet not everything is extinguished. Walls remain standing. Scars of stone survive. Years later, the Byzantine emperors, Constantine IX Monomachos and others, send money and craftsmen. The site is partly rebuilt. It is patched up more than restored. The place again becomes a sanctuary, but broken, incomplete. Then come the Crusaders. 1099. The armies cross the walls in blood and dust. Jerusalem falls. The Franks discover the mutilated Holy Sepulchre. They reshape it, rearrange the spaces, seal vaults, line up chapels. The medieval Basilica takes shape, a mixture of Constantinian memories and Latin boldness. The Edicule too endures these conquering hands. It is reinforced, redesigned, always around the same invisible center, the funerary rock. The centuries continue to strike. Fires, wars, neglect. In the 16th century, a major reconstruction of the Edicule is required. Then, in 1808, a sudden fire again engulfs the sanctuary. The flames lick the marbles, crack the stones. A large part of the Edicule is devastated. A Greek architect, Nikolaos Komnenos, is called. His plans, his hand, rebuild in 1810 a new Edicule with the forms that, until 2016, dominate the rotunda. Dark colors, engaged columns, lantern, heavy marbles. The silhouette that pilgrims see in the 20th and early 21st centuries was born of this fire and this reconstruction. In 1927, an earthquake strikes Palestine under British mandate. The Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre takes the shock. The rotunda groans. The walls crack. The Edicule absorbs the blow. The engineers watch, concerned. The stones bear fissures like sudden wrinkles.
The danger of a partial collapse becomes real, especially if another quake occurs. In 1947, the British authorities do not want to see the supposed tomb of Christ collapse before their eyes. They wrap the Edicule in a steel cage. Metal bands tighten around the structure. Beams and permanent scaffolding surround it like an improvised armor. What was meant to be temporary support becomes an iron prison. It will not move for nearly 70 years. In the meantime, the status quo reigns, implacable. Any large-scale restoration requires unanimous agreement from the three major communities that share responsibility for the Basilica: the Greek Orthodox, the Catholic Franciscan Custody, and the Armenian Apostolics. A single refusal and everything comes to a standstill. Thus, decade after decade, major restoration projects die in the corridors. Technical reports pile up, dusty, alarming. Engineers and architects write the same sentence in different forms. The Edicule is fragile. Action is needed. Nothing is done. The primary jurisdiction over the Edicule and the Great Rotunda, the Catholicon, falls to the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Jerusalem. The Patriarch, Theophilos III, from 2005 onward, embodies this authority. His signature, his word, commit a tradition that sees itself as guardian of the visualized heart of the tomb. Facing him, the Franciscan custody of the Holy Land represents the Latin Catholic Church. It holds many shrines, including important parts of the Holy Sepulchre. For centuries, the friars minor have watched over the Latin altars, negotiated with Muslim authorities, maintained lamps and stones. Pierbattista Pizzaballa, Custos from 2004 to 2016, then Francesco Patton, bear Rome's voice in this labyrinth of rites. At their side, the Armenian Apostolic Patriarchate of Jerusalem guards chapels, roofs, corridors. It owns specific liturgical rites, certain segments of the Basilica. Since 2013, Patriarch Nurhan Manugian must also be consulted. His assent counts as much as that of the others. Around this tripod, other churches revolve in orbit. The Coptic Orthodox have a tiny chapel nestled behind the Edicule. The Syriac Orthodox hold a few spaces. The Ethiopian Orthodox live on the roofs, in modest cells above the sacred void. the status quo guarantees them limited but real rights. In this tight world, every candlestick is a border. At the entrance, however, it is not Christians who turn the key. Two Muslim families, the Nusayrbes and the Jodes, stand guard at the door of history. Since the Ayyubid era, confirmed by the Ottomans, they have held the basilica's keys. Every morning, every evening, their hands open and close the great wooden door. The gesture is always the same. The symbol is vertiginous. The most sacred sanctuary for Christians depends, for access, on Muslim families. From the 19th century onward, architects and scholars such as Conrad Schick walk through the basilica. They draw, measure, probe with their eyes the complex topography of the Holy Sepulchre. Schick explores the underground areas, the changes in level, the buried walls. In the 20th century, Franciscan archaeologists like Virgilio Corbo study the stratigraphy and the different construction phases. Where permitted, they excavate the masses, stairways, and lower chapels. Others, such as Bellarmino Bagatti, study more broadly the tombs of the 1st century in Jerusalem, the funerary types, the carved corridors, the niches. But one place remains forbidden: the burial chamber itself, under the marble slab that pilgrims kiss. According to tradition, a slab was laid or replaced in 1555. Other coverings were added later. Since at least the early 19th century, this upper slab has not been moved. It becomes an absolute threshold. Beneath it, silence. No one, neither archaeologist nor restorer, goes down. The tomb is venerated, not studied. In the 20th century and the early 21st, attentive eyes notice increasingly serious signs. The cracks on the edicule stretch and branch out. Deformations appear in the walls. Subsidence takes shape. Chips of stone fall. Technical reports, again and again, sound the alarm. They speak of real risks. In the event of an earthquake, in the event of an overload of pilgrims, a partial collapse is no longer a mere hypothesis. The Israeli civil authorities get involved. The Jerusalem municipality, the civil safety services, remind the churches of their responsibility. If nothing is done, if the edicule threatens the lives of the pilgrims, the secular arm could be forced to strike hard. Administrative closure, barriers, prohibitions. Closing the tomb of Christ for safety reasons. The idea hangs in the air like a threat. In the offices of the patriarchates, behind heavy doors, meetings follow one another. Before 2016, especially in the 2000s and early 2010s, Greeks, Franciscans, Armenians met around tables cluttered with plans and figures. They talk about major restoration.
Everyone knows something must be done. But how? Who is in charge? Who pays? Who chooses the architects? Who signs the permits? Every action could be interpreted as an advance onto the other's sacred ground. The fear of altering the balance of the status quo is paralyzing. They hesitate. They postpone. They get annoyed. Meanwhile, the flow of pilgrims swells. The 21st century pours into Jerusalem, crowds coming from the four corners of the earth. Planes, buses, guided groups. The numbers rise, the lines lengthen in front of the edicule encircled with iron. The guides point out, sometimes with palpable embarrassment, those rusty metal reinforcements, those beams that disfigure the sanctuary. Journalists photograph the cracks. The images travel. They strike the consciences of the faithful, of leaders, of the whole world. Papal visits play their part. John Paul II in 2000, Benedict XVI in 2009, Francis in 2014 come to pray at the Holy Sepulchre. With each visit, as the cameras sweep over the edicule, they also capture the stone's scars. Behind the scenes, the popes meet Eastern patriarchs, heads of churches. They talk about unity, peace, the Holy Land. Behind the grand words, one certainty emerges. If Christians do not know how to protect together their most sacred tomb, what can they claim to defend? Ecumenical speeches, dialogues between churches, gradually clear a new space. In their public statements, the heads of the three major communities affirm their desire to preserve the sanctuary. They say out loud what they were already whispering: an agreement for the restoration is necessary. They begin to sound out technical institutions, universities, teams capable of carrying out a scientific project without desecrating the place.